Hi guys, and welcome back to the Video Game with Powers. I'm Jake, and in today's video I'm going to be giving you my review of the newest board game in the TeeTurtle line here, Command of Nature. Now, Command of Nature is a game for 2 or 4 players. This is right around 30 to 60 minutes and ages 10 plus. Now, like I said, this is the newest game from TeeTurtle Games in kind of that unstable line, right? I just say unstable because Unstable Unicorns is their I think it is their most well-known game. But previously, before Command of Nature, I do believe they had Casting Shadows. Before that was like Happy Little Dinosaurs, Here to Slay, all that good stuff. Their newest head-to-head battler type game, or battler type game right here, is going to be Command of Nature. Now, Command of Nature is a deck building game, and like I said, it is strictly either for 2 or 4 players. Now, there are some solo rules, there are some 3-player rules, but that is not in the actual rule book of this game. That was like, I think, a special Kickstarter rules or something like that. But in the base box here that we are looking at today, it is either designed for 2 players or 4 players, so a 1v1 or a 2v2. Now, if this is your first time watching a review from us, no, we maybe dive into games a little bit more than your average content creator. And what I mean by that is we break our games down into 7 different categories when doing a review. These categories are theme, components, setup, length, difficulty, replayability, and price. Once I go through all of those different categories, we will all rate these on a scale of 1 to 10. This scale matches the BGG scale exactly. So, for example, if I gave something a 7, if you gave something a 7 on BGG, that would be considered good. So I am rating that as good as well. So I am matching that BGG scale. So if all of you guys are familiar with BGG and that scaling works, this will give you guys a good indication on how some of these different categories are rated. At the end of those 7 different categories, I'll be giving you my overall rating of the game. And then to wrap up the review, since majority of these games I have backed on either Kickstarter or GameFound, I will be giving my thoughts on if I had the opportunity to back the game again, would I do so? All right, guys. Well, look. Let's go ahead, enough chitter chatter from me. Let's go ahead and jump right into my review of Command of Nature, starting off with the theme. So I'm going to go ahead and give the theme here a 7.5. I think the theme is good-ish, right? I think it's just a generic overall theme that you would see from any of these TeeTurtle games. Like I said, it's you got elements, you got cute little animals, you got animals that are fighting each other, and different things like that. But there's some cool little things that they've done with this game thematically that I think just give it that 7.5 and just give it that little over the edge. Turn it from being good-ish, turn it from being good to good-ish. All right, let's go ahead and jump down to the table. I'm going to talk about the mechanics of the game and how those mechanics tie into the theme, and then we'll be back up top here for the rest of our review. All right, guys, so we are down here at the table where we have everything set up for a 2-player game of Command of Nature. Now, like I said, the overall premise of the game here is you are going to choose an elemental sage. There are 4 types of elemental sages in the game here. You are going to have a starting deck of cards, and then with this starting deck of cards, you are going to set up your 3-row formation. Your sage is always going to be in the middle of the back line, and you will always have 3 basic elementals here up front. And so this overall premise of the game is you are going to be playing 3 types of command cards, essentially. Attack command cards, and I'll bring these closer to the screen. You'll be playing attack command cards, ritual command cards, and instant command cards. And your goal of the game is to defeat the opponent's elemental sage. And so you kind of do this by playing these different commands, right, you are commanding these elementals in your army to take an action and to defeat the other elementals in your opponent. And so these first 2 rows here must always be filled. So whenever you defeat an opponent's elemental, they must move their elementals in the other rows up to kind of go ahead and fill these spots. So your goal is to try and clear out all of your opponent's elementals in row 1 and row 2 to force your opponent to move this sage up. Now, the game gets a lot more strategic than that because you have other elementals available to you that you can put down to fill these rows as well to prevent your sage from having to be pushed up. And of course, this is a deck building game. So you have a market where at the end of the turn you can buy things, okay? For me, some of the cool intricacies of the mechanics and the themes of why I kind of give it that good-ish, right? Wow, every sage in your area that you have can use any type of element of your choice. So for example, if you have the leaf sage right here, he starts off with just all leaf elementals, but he could buy a water elemental or a pebble elemental and put them into his formation as well. There are certain cards, like most of the time these ritual command cards, that are going to require you to have a certain number of elementals of the same type in your formation in order to play them, okay? So I like that mechanic there. A lot of these elementals themselves are going to be interacting with elements of a certain type. So it might say whenever another leaf element enters a row or something like that, you will get bonuses. And then, of course, each sage is going to have their own asymmetric powers that you will be able to upgrade and unlock as the game goes along, and those are very thematic as well. And so for me, I think just those small little things give this game a little push over more than just kind of being good, because sometimes you can get lost in the theme of the game here because you're mixing and matching some of these different things. And it would have been interesting to see how the game would play if, let's say, the Twig, if you played as the Twig or the Leaf, you could only recruit Twig or Leaf into your own formation. I would have been curious if they did that during playtesting and things like that. But yeah, I think just some of those mechanics there. I like how they integrated the thematicness of these elements are working together, but you can use also different elements, but it might not be good to use those different elements because you might not be able to chain certain things together. But that is the that is my rating there on the theme. Again, that is going to be a 7.5 out of 10 for my theme. All right, guys, moving right into the components here. So I do own the Kickstarter exclusive edition of the game, so there are going to be some upgrades to that, but I'm actually going to rate the game here off the base retail version. And so I'm going to go ahead and give that rating a 7 out of 10. I think the components there are just good. Let's go ahead and jump down to the table. I'm going to show you all these components. I'm going to show you the storage, talk about all that, and then we'll be back up top here for the rest of my review. All right, guys, so we are zoomed in really close here, but let's go ahead and dive into these components here. A lot of the things you see here are what would come in the retail version of the game. So all of these cards are just basic cards, like 52 deck style cards that you would find in most board games. I do like the artwork though. I think the artwork here is what really saved this from being lower than a 7, maybe about a 6.5. The artwork is what really saved this. All of these cute little, the names of each of these different, elementals, the Current Crusher, the Terra Miner, and all of the different, the art that's each unique and things like that. The boards themselves, the Sage boards, are basically just like a little booklet. That's kind of cool. Cardboard little booklet there that opens and fold. That's good for setup and teardown. Okay, you are going to have little level up tokens. These are just cardboard punch outs. That's everything pretty much that you see here. Here is the rest of the deck of the command cards. Here is the rest of the deck of the elemental cards. All right, and then last but not least, let me move some of these cards right here. We have the box with some of these other components. Now, I did get the expansion as well, all right? And I was trying to find a way, the box does come with a insert, but I was trying to find a way to fit the expansion content in the box with the original content, and it was not really working out. So I just found it easier just to remove the insert itself and then be able to store everything like this. But what I've done is put each different sage. So we have the Pebble Sage, the Droplet Sage, the Wind Sage, and the Sand Sage. These two sages are from the Wind and Sand expansion here. I just put their starting decks and token in its each individual baggie. This makes it, this is huge for setup. And then you can see here some of the other components. So these are all cardboard punch outs. All of this stuff you see here would come in the retail version of the game. These are just tokens for defense, health tokens, boost tokens is what they call them. These are sand and wind tokens. Now the one change here, these are metal coins. In the retail version, this would be small little cardboard coins. And then you would just have these, all of the different boards of each sage here. So there's not a huge difference, guys, between the exclusive edition of Command of Nature and the retail edition. Some of these only differences are the box art and cover itself. In the exclusive edition, you got this nice holographic box. Also, of course, there's going to be certain elementals that are going to be Kickstarter only, and then you have the coins. Everything else is going to come in the retail version of the game. But kind of basically how I've stored everything is you can see all of my boards would go here. I just have everything else in little baggies as such. And then I have all the individual bags. I've stacked them right there. And then I put these two big bags on top. And then, of course, I have both the rule books, boom, 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 and then I close it just like that. No issues whatsoever. So those are all of the components here in the game. All right, guys, moving on to the setup. So I'm going to go ahead and give the setup a 9 out of 10 here. I think there is some excellent setup with Command of Nature, especially with kind of the way I have organized it. Pretty much all you're doing, you just need to get all those tokens out and put them in different piles in a certain area. You're just setting up the markets, the command market and the the elemental warrior market. Those are easy. Just take those decks, shuffle them up, put 3 cards out. You select your sage and then you build your 3 rows and then you're ready to go. So I think setup is super fast, super quick, super easy here. 9 out of 10, very, very excellent, well, very good and excellent setup. Alrighty, moving on to the length. So it does say 30 to 60 minutes on the box. I'm going to go ahead and give this length a 6 out of 10. Look, guys, I'm going to be honest. I have not played a single game of Command of Nature that has not gone under 60 minutes. Every single game that me and Sierra have played has been over 60 minutes. This game does have a tendency to drag out, right? The first couple of turns, you guys are doing with these command and attack guards, you guys are taking out each other's elementals left and right, and you guys are thinking like, man, this is going to be a quick game. But once you figure out a strategy of buying all of these cheap elementals from the market, because there are some cheap elementals in the market from 3, 2, or 1 coins, and then you can use those elementals to put down into your formation to replace your formation, it kind of stalls the game out. I mean, there's been many occasions where either myself or Sierra have forced us to bring our elemental sage into that second or first row, And then through our deck building, right, we have gotten some elemental sages or in our hand, or we buy some elemental sages from the market at the end of our turn, and then next turn our sage is able to survive the damage, and then we put down 2 or 3 different sages, fill that formation back up, and then able to drop him back down into the 3rd line here, and then it's just kind of stalled the game out. So really most of the games that me and Sierra have played have been around 75 to 90 minutes per play here. So I think the length here is, it's okay. It's like, it's all right. So 6 out of 10 for me on the length. Alrighty, moving on to the difficulty. So I'm going to go ahead and, well, actually I should state, remember, with the difficulty, guys, the higher the number, the more challenging we feel the game is. The lower the number, the easier we feel the game is. So I'm going to go ahead and give this difficulty a 4 out of 10. I think at the core, the game is very simple, right? There's 4 different phases to the game, but there's a lot of maintenance that's going to go on with Command of Nature, because you do have a lot of elementals that have certain abilities that are going to activate when they go into certain rows, okay? You have elementals that have daybreak effects, so that first phase is the daybreak phase, where any elemental that has a daybreak effect, you get that bonus. Like I said, there's going to be elementals that gain bonuses by being moved into rows or when other elementals attack, so there's a little bit of maintenance you got to do there. The biggest key here is the action point system. So there is no way to track the amount of action points that you have used. So on your turn, you get 4 action points to do a certain number of actions. You can do the same action as many times as you would like. And like I said, it is kind of challenging and difficult to keep track of how many actions that you have taken. So just the maintenance here of all the little steps kind of make it very challenging. Also with some of these attack cards, you would be able to think like they have certain ones that are with the attack cards per se, they designate the row that you have to attack. So 2 rows away or 1 row away. So whatever element you're using, it'll tell you 2 rows away you have to attack. And so sometimes that can be confusing, because a lot of people might think, oh, I get to attack row 2 or row 1. No. It's with that element you are attacking 1 row away, and a row away does include your own formation. So like for example, if I had an element in my row 2 and I was attacking 2 rows away, I am attacking the element in my opponent's row 1, because I would count my row 1 as 1 row away, and then their row 1 would be 2 rows away. So that can be very confusing for some people, because they see it says a 2 on there and they're like, oh, I can attack my opponent's row 2. So just some of those little things make it a little bit challenging, but still the game is super simple and easy to grasp and kind of get down. So 4 out of 10. Alrighty, moving on to replayability here. I'm going to go ahead and give this an 8 out of 10. I think there's some very good replayability here with this game. Of course, it is a deck building game, and most deck building games have really good replayability, because you're able to change your playstyle and cycle through different cards. I think with this game, they have provided you with a lot of different command cards, instant cards, attack cards. They provided you with a bevy of different elemental warriors from all the different elements, and so it's cool to be able to go through and see all those. I mean, it's going to take you probably about 3 or 4 plays to get through the entire deck, maybe even more, of each of the command deck and the elemental warrior market deck. So these elements and these ritual commands that are coming out, they feel fresh almost every time. Now there are duplicates of a lot of those attack command cards, so there's not only 1 copy, but like I said, I think for me where it's very good is everything kind of still feels fresh every time you play this game, and I think that's a very good sign for a deck building game. Alrighty, moving on to the price. So the base game here on Kickstarter, the Kickstarter edition was 29 USD. The cheapest I have been able to find this online is on the Unstable website itself. It is 16 US dollars. And guys, for 16 US dollars, I'm giving this price a 9 out of 10. I think that is tremendous and excellent value for everything that you are getting in this game. I think this is a game that has some very good replayability. The components are good, they're nice. You get 4 different sages, you get a bevy of cards, you get a game that's still gonna feel fresh almost every time you play it. If you enjoy deck building games, I mean, there are not a lot of deck building games that are under that $20 price point. And so I think for this one, I'll talk more about it in a second as to why, but this is actually my favorite game from TeeTurtle to date. And so I think being that deck building game, being a game that feels fresh, and all of the content that you're getting just from the core box for only $16, I think that is excellent value here. So 9 out of 10 on the price. All right, guys, let's go ahead and move on to my overall rating. So I'm going to go ahead and give Command of Nature a 7.5 out of 10. Man, I wanted to give this game an 8 out of 10, guys, so bad. But for me, I think the thing that really holds this game back for me is the length of the game and how, you can kind of draw the game out in order to survive. But let's kind of talk about some of the things I like and enjoy about Command of Nature, and then I'll talk a little bit about the length, just recapping what I talked about in the length piece as well. But Command of Nature is actually my favorite game from TeeTurtle to date. We do own Here Slay, we do own Casting Shadows as well. I feel that Here to Slay is too much of a take that style game to work well at 2 players. I feel like Casting Shadows is too much of a battler, like a head-to-head battler type game, where it's essentially like, I got my character, you got yours. Okay, game starts, we just move to the tiles in front of us and then battle each other and the game is over. You never really get a chance to feel powerful unless you avoid each other for a long period of time. And then really it just becomes luck of who can get the better spells and whatnot. So I don't think Casting Shadows works well at 2 players. I think that's more of a 4 to 5 player type game. But Command of Nature, I feel, works really well at this 2 player count. What I enjoy about Command of Nature is the unique mechanic of that formation in that line, right? I really do enjoy deck building games, but I've never really seen, most of the deck building games you have one singular character that you're trying to hit, or there's your opponent's base that you're trying to deal 50 damage to. And you have that opportunity to deal that damage to that base or that character almost right out the chute. Here in Command of Nature, I have to mow through my opponent's formation, and I also have to set up my formation to be able to do damage and get different effects and abilities and different things like that. It's almost like a checkers-esque type of feel to the game. And so I think that works really well. And then of course you have all the different elements with their unique individual powers and things like that. So it's really cool just being able to have that deck building aspect, recruit different commands and attack commands, powers, recruit different elements and things like that. Of course, I do really enjoy the colors, the artwork here, all the cute little animals doing battle with each other. But those are just some of the things I really do enjoy about Command of Nature. I think it works really well at 2 players. We have not managed to play it at 4 yet, so that's going to be interesting. But I think this works really well as a 2-player game. Now, like I said, for me, the one thing that really holds this game back is its length. I do feel the game is very long because it can get drawn out, right? The game can also kind of be flipped on its side. So, just to kind of recap that length piece before I go to, I'm all over the place here, but just to kind of recap that length piece, like I said, you can get a lot of these elemental warriors from the market or from your hand that haven't been defeated yet, and you can keep putting them out to fill up your formation. And if your opponent is not getting lucky and getting a lot of these command cards or can't do a lot of damage to you, it's going to go ahead and stall that game out. And there have been times where I've been managed to stall this game out for an extra like 15 to 20 minutes when I was pretty much going to lose anyway. The second thing about this game that can kind of be frustrating a little bit is the game can flip on its head really at any time. There's been numerous occasions where I have been snowballing Sierra, or Sierra has been just decimating me, and I'm like, man, this game is over. And then all of a sudden, I draw, some 2 really good command cards that I need, or I get an elemental that I need, and next thing I know, I'm mowing through her formation, and the game has just turned completely on its side. And that can be kind of frustrating because you have this feeling of like, man, I got my full formation, I'm ready to go, my opponent's on its back heel, and then all of a sudden it flips completely on its head, and you're like, man, I was not prepared for that at all. So that can be frustrating for little people. But like I said, at the end of the day, 7.5 out of 10 for me. Great deck building game. Good-ish deck building game. Let me use actual terms on BGG. Good-ish deck building game here. Works really well at 2 players. Great price. Definitely think you guys should take a look at picking this one up. Final thing, if I had the opportunity to back this game again, would I? Absolutely yes. I am pleased with my pledge to getting that expansion. I do enjoy the sand and wind elementals as well. They bring in a cool mechanic where the wind guys can put wind tokens on characters, and they can take an additional action. So they can take 2 actions instead of 1. Normally, when you use somebody to attack or initiate a command, they become exhausted. So you can unexhaust them and use them to take another action again. The sand guy kind of puts sand on you. It's almost like a dot damage over time. That'll deal damage to your monsters and your opponent's formation as well. So definitely would back this game again if I had the opportunity to do so. All right, guys. Well, look, that is a lengthy review. I had a lot to talk about with this one, and I know I was all over the place and such like that. Let me know your comments down below. Do you guys own Command of Nature? What are your thoughts on it? If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and as always, guys, if you are not subscribed to our channel, please go ahead and subscribe so we can keep bringing you some more awesome content. All right, guys. Have a great one. Bye.